Good evening, everyone. We're going to reconvene the public hearing concerning the Mountain Trail Solar application. We have, where we left off last time was we were at the tail end of testimony by Tommy Cleveland. Mr. Cleveland is on the Zoom. Mr. Cleveland, can you unmute yourself? Can you start your video? So, Mr. Cleveland, do you remain under oath from your prior testimony? Do you understand that?
That might have been a question for me, but I'm having a real hard time hearing.
Okay, let's see if we can adjust something on our end. Makes it real hard to do this if you can't hear us. We can go off the record, Tim. Does that sound better, Tommy?
Not much. It sounds it's kind of muffled in the back.
Can you, Tommy, can you hear me?
Oh, that's sharp right there.
Russell, can you swap mics with Mr. Mazeka? I think it's the microphone.
I can hear her as well.
You can hear that?
What about this?
Yes. Oh, that's much better. Can you hear that?
Yeah, there's something wrong with that mic, I think.
Okay. Now, my understanding is that you can't hear me. How about now? Are we good now? Now can everyone hear me? Apparently we have one mic that goes to the Zoom and one mic that goes to the rest of the room. All right, if we can go back on the record. Mr. Cleveland, do you understand that you remain under oath in your last appearance here before the board?
Yes.
Okay. And it is my understanding that Mr. Mazeka has some questions. I'd like to have him do that before you redirect, Mr. Gallagher. That way, if it brings up any questions, you can address that on your redirect.
Good evening, Mr. Cleveland. Thank you for coming back again tonight. Sorry we had to drag you back. We were hoping we could get finished with you last time, but hopefully we won't have you too long tonight. My first question, are you familiar with the term of ground truthing?
I couldn't quite hear it. Am I familiar with the term of what?
Are you familiar with the term ground truthing?
The ground truthing?
Truthing.
The audio is still not very good.
Truthing.
True. I don't believe I am. Could you spell it really right now? Make sure I'm hearing what I would. Spell the second one again.
Truthing.
Oh, truthing. Ground truthing. No, I don't believe I am.
Okay. I was speaking with my sister 2 weeks ago, and she did a lot of highway projects out in California. She lives in San Francisco, and it was a term that they used quite a bit as far as boots on the ground to verify the accuracy of the reports that your glare analysis software has put out. At any time, have you gone out on any project that has been completed to verify the accuracy of the information in the reports?
Not the glare results. No, I assume that's what you're referring to.
Mr. Cleveland, can you pull your mic a little bit back from your mouth? We're having a little bit of a hard time understanding on our end. And just try again. See if that helps.
that was for me?
Yeah, that was, yeah, if you could, we're just having some difficulty here. What you're saying is coming through muffled, so I don't know if your mic is just a little bit too close to your mouth.
Okay, I noticed it was, I'm just trying to find how to change my settings. It was set very sensitive. I can also try to lower that. All right, is that any better now?
Is that better, Jen? Okay.
Is it him or is it just one line? Or is it the set, is everything set up the same way as last time?
Everything is set up the same way as last time.
Yes.
Yeah.
The microphone that Mr. Gallagher is the only thing I can hear very clear. Everything else sounds really muffled.
Yeah, I mean, the room is set up exactly the same. I've been working directly with the tech director, so I don't know. Do you have another microphone that you can use?
Can you try speaking one more time?
Try saying something, Mr. Cleveland.
Yeah. I'm sitting here now. How does that sound? I can switch to a different microphone. This is usually the best one I have.
That seems a little clearer, right?
Does that sound better? How does it sound to me now? 1,
A
2.
little. I'm just looking at the court reporter because she has to make sure she can transcribe it.
We can go off the record for a second. I have a suggestion. We have Ryan or Steve say something, see if it's.
Can you use that microphone there, just so I get through these questions, and then the floor will be yours.
Well, I just meant, if it's a technical thing, I don't know if it's his.
Yeah.
I can hear Mr. Cleveland just fine. Just if that's any help.
And we can hear him pretty clearly.
I think it's hearing you.
Mr. Cleveland, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I couldn't tell who that was, but yes, I just heard that.
Okay,
Can you understand? Okay. Why don't we go back on the record, and if there's, Jen, if it becomes an issue, just get my attention and we'll stop.
Okay, Mr. Cleveland, I was the one that asked you the question a minute ago. Did you want me to repeat it?
Yes, this is sounding better now.
Okay, are you familiar with the term ground truthing?
Oh, thank you. I can hear. I think I can hear fine. Okay, now. It sounds vaguely familiar, but no, I'm not familiar. Can't say I'm familiar with that term.
In your experiences, have you ever gone out after one of these projects is completed and verified that the information that was provided in the solar glare analysis was correct? Is that something you've done in the past?
No, I'm not.
Do you know that anyone has ever been requested to do that in the past?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that the groups that developed the software have done that in the development of their software and written technical reports showing that analysis where they compared the real world glare that was experienced to what the model had predicted, and they found very good matches. But I'm not aware of anybody doing that for a project since the software has been accepted as accurate.
Okay, so that would be something that maybe the zoning officer would keep an eye on, because ground truthing actually happens before, during, and after construction of the project. So would that be something that either Kinley Horn would be responsible for, or maybe our zoning officer, in your opinion?
I'm not sure if you're referring to the glare, where the glare is visible, or just is the project being built per the plans?
Well, it's basically to confirm the analysis of the glare study. Who would do that if, at the end of the project, at the end of when the vegetation is at mature height, to see that the numbers in your appendix D of, I believe your exhibit is 52, if those numbers are accurate? Who in your opinion should actually look at that?
I'm not sure that it's needed, but whomever would have that interest possibly could be the zoning administrator if they wanted to do that.
Well, I mean, if we would ask for it, that's my question is, who would we ask to have that done at that stage of the project?
I see. Probably an engineering firm. You would ask somebody to do that kind of analysis to go, and you have to go to a certain number of places, you know, at times specified in the report.
Mr. Cleveland, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're going to just turn. Our court reporters are still having a little bit of difficulty. So if you can start at the beginning of that answer again, just so that we can, and if it's helpful to have the question reread, just let us know, and I'll have the question reread for you.
Should we try a different microphone?
Yeah, I think so, because that's worse than we were before.
I'm not sure if this is the right microphone. Does this sound better to them?
Yeah, it sounds a lot better, actually. So if you can just,
Yes, does sound.
yeah, if you can just start that answer, if you can just start that answer over.
That.
I'm not trying to torture each other.
Oh, I realize I also put I couldn't hear what anybody said.
Okay.
I gotta put my headphone on. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say this sounded better?
This is sounding better. Can you start your answer from the beginning?
Okay. Yes, the first part of what I was saying was I'm not aware of people going out after a project is built to verify the accuracy of this type of glare study, but I am aware that safety and national laws and FAA work together to verify the software. Did I hear you okay?
Yeah, you're good.
You're good. You can continue.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry. And then they would work to verify the software as it's being developed, making a comparison between the glare seen in a real-world project compared to what the model predicted. And there was very good agreement there. And they published a technical report on that shows a good agreement. So I'm not aware of that being the practice. That was the practice going forward that projects have followed up after being built the verified models. The model has been accepted as being a good representation of glare, good predictor of the glare. But it could be done so that we could go out and go to these locations at the times that glare is predicted and other times glare is not predicted and see if it's visible.
Okay, can you hear me again?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I ask is because our ordinance doesn't require the applicant to plant mature growth trees. And I know you're not an arborist, so you have no idea how long it would take for trees to get to mature height. And it would all depend on different kind of trees. So that study could be out maybe 5 to 6 years after the completion of the project to those trees reach mature height. Is that correct? And that would be suitable to match your numbers in Apex D of your report from the solar arrays on page 21, 26, 34, and 42. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure what those page numbers are without looking up. I think you're referring to the mature height results.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes, you're correct that you couldn't really very feasibly verify those results until those trees had grown to mature height. That's correct. And then that would take a number of years. I'm not sure what the number of years is, but it would take a number of years to get to mature height.
Okay, well, when you did your analysis, I mean, your numbers were actually a little better than the Kinley-Horn analysis in Exhibit 37. They have the same analysis at the back end of their report as well. My only other question is, we had a township meeting a couple weeks ago for revisions to the solar ordinance. And I made up an example for our zoning officer just to see what his response would be about solar panels on, if I put solar panels on my house. And he stated that there are coatings and films that you can put on solar panels to reduce glare. Are you familiar with any of those types of coatings or films?
Yes, yes.
I think you cut out, Tommy, if there was one, you just froze for a second.
Yes, I'm familiar with those coatings. Was there more question I missed?
Yes, are you familiar with the any types of coatings or films that can be put on solar panels to reduce glare? Or would that be a question for Mr. Hughes, the engineer?
I don't know that it would be a question for Mr. Hughes, but yes, I'm familiar with the age reflective coatings. The vast majority of panels on the market have an anti-reflective. And they are really designed to minimize that occurs from sunlight hitting the panels. They're more or less straight on. Really there to maximize energy production. They're not there for the purpose of avoiding glare. A small benefit in avoiding glare, but they're primarily for the purpose of maximizing how much sunlight gets into the solar panels.
Mr. Cleveland, unfortunately, you're cutting in and out. Can you just repeat that?
Yeah, have we confirmed that that's on my end, the audio problem, or is it somewhere else? Is it the same thing the other one was?
Well, now it's not too bad, so hold that position and then repeat your answer.
Okay, I moved my wire a little bit. What was I'm familiar with those anti-reflective coatings, the majority of panels, and where they're designed to minimize glare, minimize reflection when sunlight is hitting the panels fairly directly and close to a 90-degree angle. The glass already reflects right at that angle, but this makes it, so it's there for the purpose of maximizing the electricity production, and less so for the purpose of glare. The glare only occurs when sunlight hits the panels at a low angle, very low. And these anti-reflective coatings are marginally effective at that kind of angle, because they're designed for the sunlight entering at a perpendicular angle.
Okay, yeah, I understand that the panels themselves are made, there is some reflective deterrents, I guess, for lack of a better word, built into the panel, but I was just curious as if you knew of anything else that could be put on panels to help if there is a glare situation that wasn't seen by the software.
I don't understand. There's not something that I'm aware of that can just be put on the panels other than covering them up that would make them not useful at all. It is possible to change their mounting angle. It'd be rather change, but you could change the position they're facing to change the glare that occurs.
Okay, that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the board have questions?
We're just about done. If you have a question, you can ask it now. Because it just avoids we having to go do the round robin again.
Mr. Clayton, can you hear me?
Yeah,
The last meeting, I believe we had, you presented evidence that that there's going to be so many hours of glare with the study that you did before the trees reach mature height. Is that correct?
that's correct. Cumulative hours if you add up from all different locations.
I'm looking at the chart. The chart that has the roads listed, and you have glare levels green, yellow, and red. Are you familiar with that chart? Can you pull that up? Table 1.
Do you know what table that's on?
What exhibit are you referring to?
It's his report.
Okay.
The, I don't know what it is.
Exhibit 52.
Okay.
I see figure 3 that has green, yellow, and red.
Yes. And can you refresh our memory what those colors stand for?
Yeah, these are 3 different levels of how much impact the glare would have to somebody. This comes from some earlier research dating back to at least 2010 when they this
Are you talking about the
scheme
same thing? I'm sorry.
where green.
I don't know if
Table 1. Table 1. Table 1 in your report.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at figure 3. me go to table one.
Can you put it up?
Sorry, I can. I don't remember where the first beyond. Okay. Are y'all seeing this? I've got table one shared now, I believe.
We do not see it on the screen, no.
Oh, I see it. There's a confirm button I had. Oh,
Okay, we got it now.
It's now on the screen.
okay.
So I'd like to review this table again. So we have the roads listed on the left-hand column. And there's different glare levels. I guess that represents throughout the day.
This is cumulative, well, like if you just look at the first column there, the annual glare hours, this is cumulative across the year. So it's having to be the very first cell, Isle Road, green glare level, 72.3 hours in total on Lyle Road for the whole year.
So my concern is with this report, until the trees reach 40 feet in height, according to your numbers here, there's going to be some significant glare, average minutes per day, under the different colors you have across there for each road.
Yes, and I can speak a little bit and help just kind of explain what this is, but you're generally correct that, and green is very low intensity and visually, also fairly low intensity and a fairly small part of the array, a small reflection is green, and then yellow is some combination of and larger, and then and then what this says, average minutes per day recurrent. These occur anywhere from 1 month to 6 months out of the year. Every day of the year, it's only clear sky days when and during those limited months. So we can stay on this, but I think it's helpful if I scroll down here just quickly into the results and show you an example. This graphic on the right is showing, there's a lot of information here. This is showing you the whole length of what at least I call Klaus Road in the model. In some cases, they may actually cover roads with two different names. And it's basically showing there's only this one section here that has yellow to fair. And then this on the upper left shows you glare occur. And it's showing it occurs around sunset, 5 and 6, or at least late in the day. This is also not considered daylight savings time. Shift an hour later, almost all this time. And when this shows you across the year, when does this occur? You can see it's basically spring and early fall occurs.
So
those numbers in table 1.
Okay, let's get back on point here. So there's going to be glare throughout the day, correct? You have listed in your chart so many minutes per day. So many minutes per day on average.
Only near sunrise.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
So my question is, let's back up to Mr. Mazeka's question. Are these panels being proposed for this project have these anti-glare coatings?
Yes.
And this study was done on based on panels with coatings or not with coatings?
And then with things, yes. This shows it here with AR coating. This is an anti-reflective coating. So they were as a clear glass with anti-reflective coating, which is would be that clear glass with an anti-reflective coating.
Okay, so we have coated panels going in, you have glare during certain times of the day for so many minutes. So that's an issue for residents that are on those property lines or roads that you had shown in that previous chart, graph. And that's when the trees are still at a 6-foot height. And to get 40 feet in height, it might take 20 years. So what's the solution for the first 20 years to mitigate glare? According to your report here.
Yeah, my report is that the glare has been mitigated as much as we can for this design. With the vegetation that's been planted, it would be a major using a different style of a tracking system instead of a fixed tilt system would dramatically reduce glare. So these panels is permanently fixed, always facing south with a 30-degree tilt from horizontal. There's also a different style of mountain panels, which are on north instead of south. East-west rows, you can put it on a north-south row and then have it rotate throughout the day. So it starts out facing east, slowly rotates to be horizontal in the middle of the day, and rotates west in the afternoon. With that kind of arrangement, you can effectively get rid of glare because you can always have the panels are always more or less facing the sun, and glare only occurs when the sun's hitting the panels at a glancing angle. If you're tracking the sun, you're keeping the panels facing toward the sun, you never have that situation where the sun's hitting them at a glancing angle.
Okay.
Yes,
So
that's
that's
close
fine.
here, but that's,
But the panels are fixed. That's what's proposed.
in the design.
Are you proposing that the structure is going to be changed?
That's not my position to say. I don't know. They made the decision that fixed tilt works better at this location. Because of the topography, I'm not certain if fixed tilt, or sorry, if track logistically an option or not. But if they were an option for the project, they would. Possibly get rid of all of glare.
Mr. Cleveland, I want to clarify something. Is it your understanding that the solar panels in this project are fixed or tracking?
They're fixed. It's a proposed project, but the plans call for fixed tilt panels.
Okay. So if they're fixed panels, wouldn't you agree that they can't always be facing the sun?
Correct, would not be facing the sun. What I'm saying is, if the design were changed to use a tracking design instead of fixed tilt.
But we're not interested in a different design. We're interested in the glare as it relates to this design. And I think that's what Mr. Davis is trying to get at, is as you presented it at this point, the analysis that you've prepared essentially addresses a 40-foot vegetative buffer that won't exist for, as Mr. Davis put it, 20 years. I don't know if that's correct or incorrect. But what if any other methods have been used to mitigate the glare between when the trees are at 0 or 6 feet vegetative height to when they get to 40 feet height, based on this current design?
Correct. It would not be facing the sun. What I'm saying is, if the design were changed to use a tracking design instead of fixed tilt panels.
But we're not interested in a different design. We're interested in the
So that's what I was saying. I said I'm not aware of what could be done on this current design other than redesign. You could remove some sections of panels, the locations where there is glare, you could redesign the panels. The project's already been designed to mitigate glare as much as possible with its design. If you're asking about or mitigated, I'm saying you would have to change the design.
All right, that's all the questions I have. I thank you for your information. So just to summarize, according to this report, there's going to be some glare throughout the day that cannot be mitigated. That's my understanding, correct?
That's correct, there would be some.
Okay, thank you.
And you said throughout the day, it only occurs quite early in the day, quite late over in the middle of the day.
Mr. Lang, do you have any questions? Mr. Gallagher, redirect.
Yeah. Tommy, can you hear me? It's not like a song, but.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep, you sound good.
All right. Just to touch upon some of the questions you were asked. I don't know if it was clear, but there is, at the time of planning, there is mitigation being proposed in the form of a 6-foot vegetative buffer.
That's correct. It's rather dramatic mitigation. If that buffer was not there, there would be a lot more glare. So the buffer blocks the majority of the reviews of the panels. And if you block view of the panel, you're blocking any glare it could produce.
Okay. And I know that we spent a number of hours last hearing, but would it be, to summarize, it would be correct to say your testimony was that you should anticipate some glare from a fixed tilt system, just in general.
Just in general, correct. Early and late in the day, you're going to have some locations likely to see glare with the fixed tilt system.
All right. And I think to your point, you went down to Klaus Road and so this table, this figure 1 shows annual amounts of glare. Understanding that there's an average per day, but it's not 9 minutes of glare per day on that road, correct?
Correct, yes.
So,
on average, 9 minutes, limited to the days where some glare occurs. There's some times of the year where there's the number 0, and those days weren't included in the average.
okay, and then can you go back to your example where you were showing the Klaus Road?
And we're still at exhibit 52.
Correct.
I think this is the one I was on.
So that chart, and I'm looking at, this is what page for the record?
Page 155 of the PDF.
Okay. And it's entitled PV Array 1 and Route, Klaus Road. So is this,
That's correct.
okay. And so we're looking at the right-hand side, second graph down, that shows, what does that depict?
It's labeled positions along path receiving glare. So it shows what was modeled as Klaus Road in the model, where glare is visible. And it has a combination of blue areas, which means there's no glare visible at that location. Green locations where there's some point during the year that location. And then the yellow portion, that means at some point where there's yellow glare visible along that section of road.
And I believe that there's different levels of glare, yellow glare. And we look to the graph to the left. This is on the very low spectrum of yellow glare.
Most of the instances, actually all these little show as orange circles. The orange section here is a whole orange circles representing different times throughout the year, different parts of that path. And most of those circles fall into the green area. Some portion crosses the line over to the yellow region.
And that's very
Over the
low.
line, green into the yellow region.
Sorry. And that's lower on the relative yellow spectrum. It's very close to green.
That's correct. They've drawn these bright lines to separate green, yellow, and red, but this actually is all just a continuum of what the glare looks like and what the impacts would be. They've tried to separate it into 3 different regions to make it easier.
So,
So you can see how far away from this yellow circle here at the top. Can y'all see my pointer?
Yes.
My mouse when I point at something? This circle here at the top is what it would, where looking directly at the sun would fall and into the indication of glare. So it's way the opposite, the high end of yellow glare. So these sections that are classified as yellow get the same classification as looking at the sun, but they're really dramatically different.
okay.
Something like 600 to 1,000 times less intense. This is a logarithmic horizontal line is 10 times. So this is 10 times less, 100 times less, and 1,000 times less intense than looking at the sun.
Okay, and then just to go back to the graph to the right on Klaus Road. So in reference to figure 1, where it shows all of what was modeled as Klaus Road, it's not, and this shows, and to go back, this is showing just a small portion of Klaus Road. So is that yellow jog, the only yellow lines, that's what that portion of the road is represented in figure 1? Is that correct? But it's classifying glare for that entire road.
Let me make it correctly. So those numbers, like these graphs here above and the numbers in table 1 are labeled as Klaus Road, but all the yellow glare is actually occurring just in this little short straight section.
Okay.
So the number is, if there was 10 hours of yellow glare, it doesn't mean the whole road experiences 10 hours of yellow glare. This is telling you place that occurs is this little short section right here.
You were actually asked a question at the last hearing about observation point 12 in Klaus Road. Why Klaus Road receives glare and why observation point 12 does not. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
Does this,
Yeah, I've
no, I mean, does this answer that question? Why is there a difference on Klaus Road receiving glare and observation point 12 does not?
Yeah, I looked into that, and I can explain it just largely from from here, and I'll go up and so the question, let me back up and show everybody what this is talking about, and where this is talking about. Yeah. So this is figure 4 from my report. This is overlaying the polygon of array 1 with the panels showing that they line up. And this is cut off the edge of the screen, but here's that short section of Klaus Road and on the right of this image. It continues off to the right. And 12 right here. And there was a question of why is there glare on Klaus Road, this section of Klaus Road, not at observation point 12. And that does seem a little surprising to have. Initially, glare here, but not back at point 12. So I looked at this a little closer and did some additional Ford Solar modeling, where I modeled just this little short section of Klaus Road, just right in front of observation point 12, and then a couple of houses. And you can see that glare on Klaus Road actually stops somewhere around my mouth, where this little indicator of the yard setback is. Somewhere right in this region is as far north as the glare goes on Klaus Road. And that makes sense when you think about it, because all these panels are south-facing panels, so the glass is looking south. And if you get on the northern side of that array, you can no longer see the front of the panels, which is the glass part that can be reflective. So that's why observation 12 is not seeing any glare. It's more north than the northern tip of this polygon, the array 1. And so there's no way for observation point 12 to see any of that south-facing glass.
Understood.
In actuality, it's a little conservative. The model thinks that there's panels all through here, this northern edge, but actually the panels are not designed to be here, so there wouldn't need to be as much glare as the model expects.
And
there'd be no glare at 12.
And that's consistent with what the graph that we were just looking at for the model results.
Although it's not very clear because of the resolute, it's hard to tell where that yellow stops when you're looking at such a long road. But we're talking about this northern tip of the yellow. You can also look and see this bottom left, back on page 155, shows where in array 1 is that glare visible. And you can see that it's only this very northeast corner that the glare is coming from. And this is covering the glare for this whole section of road. And then there's some green that's harder to see, but also green for other sections of Klaus Road. And if we were to compare a lot of this area where it thinks glare is coming from, actually will not have solar panels in it. In the real world, you would not have nearly as much glare as with this. It thinks this whole polygon is full of panels, but the actual design does not have panels in some of the area.
Okay.
But this gives you an indication that all the glare is coming from that corner.
Okay, thank you. You were asked a question at the last hearing about the differences between the site plan that was reviewed in the Kimley Horn report, which is Exhibit 37, and that site plan was number 3, as opposed to the plan that you reviewed that was the subject of your report, which is Exhibit 52. And there were certain changes made. Do those changes in the plans, in the site plans, do they affect the results at all? They change the results.
They don't at all. All those changes were small changes that occurred within polygons that were modeled as on this example, PV array 1 back on figure 4. There's some sections here around the edges that no panels are in, and the changes in those site plans made some small changes to sections where some sections of panels were removed, others were added, but all those changes still occurred inside of these polygons. In this case, it's array 1 polygon. So it had no impact on the model results, because the model was already being conservative and just pretending like we're simulating this entire polygon is full of panels.
You were also asked a number of questions. Well, let me go back. In your report, you referenced a 2015 evaluation, FAA evaluation of glare as a hazard for general aviation pilots on final approach. Do you recall that reference in your report?
Yes, I did, I'm familiar with that.
And there were questions about airplanes being impacted potentially in this evaluation if it was 5 seconds or longer on final approach.
Yes, I recall those questions.
Okay. Was that an official FAA policy?
Oh,
Okay.
no, that was not a policy, that was a research report.
Okay. And there's an official 2021 FAA policy referenced in your report.
Yes, in two different places.
Okay.
FAA came out with a new policy in 2021.
And in that policy, as referenced in your report, that the final approach, glare with respect to final approach is not an issue anymore, or not a concern. Is that correct?
That's correct. In that final policy, FAA said that experience has shown that it's regularly see glare from a variety of sources, and the FAA had initially thought maybe glare from large solar systems could be or worse than those other sources, but experience has shown that it's very similar to other sources of glare that pilots safely deal with very often. And so the 2021 policy changed their previous interim policy. Previously, in what FAA called an interim policy, they did not allow solar projects on airports to create yellow glare in the last 2 miles of a pilot's landing approach. But their 2021 update that moved that changed from an interim policy to then a final policy said, experience has shown these don't call problematic glare, and they removed that limitation for creating glare to pilots. So now now you can install a solar project on an airport with no restriction to how much glare it causes for pilots,
All right.
including that last 2 miles of land.
Does this make the potential concern about 5 seconds obsolete?
It does. That 5 seconds reference was the test point they used in a flight simulator. They tested the difference between shining a light bulb for 1 second versus seconds. And back in 2015, they found the 1 second bulb had no impact, and the 5 second bulb was essentially worth looking into more. And now the 2021 policy is effectively the update to that early research. It says, after years of experience with real projects, not just flight simulators and light bulbs, that we've learned any amount of glare at any part of the flight path is not a concern. It does not need to be limited.
If you could go back to, I think it may be figure 1 with all the observation points.
Yeah, this is figure 1. Zoom in some.
So you were asked about the selection of the observation points, and you said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you testified that you did not select them, you used the same ones that Kimley Horn selected, correct?
That's correct.
And I believe your testimony was that the observation points were reasonable. Can you explain why are they reasonable to you?
Yeah, the goal of the observation reports of observation points were to give a good representation of what the glare buildings the area would experience, or people at those buildings would experience, without overburdening the software and using more observation points than it was capable of. So you needed to select observation points that represent, and I think this does that. It is often one building out of a group of buildings are selected, buildings on each of the sides of the different arrays. For the most part, buildings fairly close to the array are selected.
And
those are all
I believe
all
this,
reasons this,
sorry, I didn't.
reasonable representation of buildings.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. It's a little bit hard going back and forth, so apologize. Were you done with your answer?
Regarding the other buildings, but then there's another aspect of the analysis that also minimizes how many buildings, or the importance of modeling more buildings, which is that you're also modeling all these roads that really give good coverage of the glare from the places the buildings are. So the modeling of all of those roads tells you about the glare on those roads, and a building located right on that glare very similar to that portion of the road. So between modeling all these roads, and I don't model quite a bit more road footage than the previous analysis had, and the selection, that existing selection of observation points, yeah, I think it's a reasonable representation to give an idea of what the glare is at buildings in the area.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, cross-examination, or recross?
Tommy, good evening. Can you hear me if I use this mic and I'm this far away?
Yes, right now this sounds pretty clear.
Good. Do you have Exhibit 37, the Kinley Horn report nearby?
Yes, I don't have it open yet, but I've got it nearby.
Okay, that's good. And what is on our screen now? That's from your Exhibit 52?
Yes, it is. That's what I have.
Okay. Just as a helpful hint, when you have a table of contents that says page numbers, you should put the page numbers in the report itself. It would make it easier for those of us trying to work with the report. But you can blame your secretary for that. Your document, Figure 1, that's what's on the screen, correct? And it shows,
that's correct.
And it shows the 14 observation points.
Yes, it does.
And then Figure 1 on page 2 of Exhibit 37 appears to be yellow dots depicting 14 observation points, but they're just not numbered.
Yes, that's correct. If I remember that.
And
yellow dot image you're referring to, yes.
Okay, and the map comparing the two documents, the Figure 1, the two different Figure 1s, is that from the same site plan?
I'm not sure what you're comparing. This Figure 1 versus Figure 1?
Well, let's see. Exhibit 37 is prepared by Kinley Horn and is dated October of 2023. And when you go to the appendices, it indicates that there's a date it was created, either October 16 or October 18. Now, you may not have been here at the time, but on October 18, though the revision to the site plans occurred. There was an original site plan, I believe, in January, and there may have been another revision, but for evidentiary purposes, October 18 are the site plans that appear to be Figure 1 in Exhibit 37. When you testified on cross-examination, you said, I asked you if you were relying on the January 9, 2024 site plan in doing your modeling. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a difference between the October 2023 version of the site plan and the January 2024 version of the site plan with respect to the solar arrays, the obstructions, and the roads that were analyzed?
There are some differences, but the roads that were analyzed are not a part of the site plan. But there were some small differences in where the panels are, the solar panels are on the site plans.
And I believe you said there was no change in the number of solar panels?
I don't know that I said that. I know there was no significant number change. I'm not sure if there could have been a very minor change in number of solar panels. I'm not certain.
But to be clear, your Exhibit 52 added 3 roads. Is that correct?
That's correct, but that is not indicated on the site plan. That's not a part of the site plan.
No, but your Exhibit 52, you added 3 roads that were not analyzed in Exhibit 37, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you also added additional buffers that were not included in Exhibit 37, correct?
That's correct.
And I asked you, when you say updated site plan, are you referring to January 9, or is there another one coming? And you said, quote, I'm referring to something newer that is coming. What's coming?
I believe, and just to,
1 second, Mr. Cleveland.
there was a site plan that was submitted before the exhibit.
That's the January 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a January 9 plan that's been marked for identification. The board exhibit has not been admitted.
That's not what I'm asking. I asked that question,
Okay.
and he said there's another one coming.
I understand what your question is, Mr. Clark.
Okay. Mr. Cleveland, did you understand my question?
Yes, and yes, my understanding is at that time, there was working on some updates to the site plan. The change in particular I remember was the addition of Monument Road. That was not in the January version of the site plan.
The addition of monument, you mean additional buffer or the additional road?
Additional, along Monument Road, and then makes a turn around the edge of the array, just adjacent to Monument Road, this buffer along here.
I'm not sure if you cut out
I'm
enough.
sure.
I said, are you?
Figure 9.
Okay. Let me ask the question. I'll stop, then you can answer.
Okay, sorry.
The other plan coming, you said added Monument Road. Were you referring to a buffer being added or the road itself?
Sorry, maybe I cut out. I was saying a buffer along Monument Road.
Okay. Looking at Figure 9 in Exhibit 52. You have that? Can you pull that up?
Yes. I think I'm sharing that now.
Thank you. On the left-hand side, it says original Kimley-Horn glare study. That's from Exhibit 37, correct?
That's correct.
And do you believe that's from the October 2023 site plan or January 2024?
This was from the October Kinley Moore report, so it must have been based on the October site plan.
Okay, now, on the right side, updated new portion circled in red. What plan is that from?
That is not from the site plan, that is buffers that I included in the model to mitigate the glare as much as possible.
So if I were to look at the January 9, 2024 site plan, I'm not going to see this updated buffer?
I believe that's correct.
If I'm going to look at what I believe is an updated site plan that may or may not be introduced this evening by the applicant, is this consistent with that revised plan?
I expected it would be. Or that it
You
is.
say- I'm sorry, Tommy, we talk over each other. There must be a delay.
Oh,
When you say you
all right,
expect,
I'm sorry, wait.
when you say you expected, have you seen an updated site plan by which you made the updated figure 9?
I don't, and I communicated the need for these buffers to Leeward, and their civil engineer were in the process of adding those buffers to the site plan. From the best I recall, I don't think I've seen the resulting updated site plan.
So you don't know if the updated new portion circled in red in figure 9 is or is not consistent with asserted proposed additional buffers being considered by the applicant?
I've not verified if they're on the new site plan, but I do know that it was planning on including them on the new site plan. They agreed that this was on land they control and these buffers would be added.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mrs. Palaniuk. It's been a long day. Mrs. Palaniuk.
I have nothing to say.
No questions. Mr. Hardman? No questions. Mr. Hoffner? Oh, you're here. No questions? Mrs. Stabile? I see Mrs. Stabile. Mr. and Mrs. Yaub? No questions. Mr. Osenbach? Not present. Mr. Balthazar?
I do.
Where should I grab a microphone?
Try this one.
Can you hear me, Mr. Cleveland?
Yes, that sounds pretty good.
Okay. All right, you mentioned that, that pamphlet, evaluation of glare as a hazard for general aviation pilots in the final approach that mentions the 5-second exposure is outdated information. You testified to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that that publication is still available on the FAA website?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you think that that makes it still current information since it's available on the website and it hasn't been removed?
Historical context, I think it's valuable. It's not like anybody's disputing anything in that report. It's just that they've learned a lot more now, and so what's in that report is not very valuable anymore.
Is that your opinion or is that fact?
Yeah. I guess that's my opinion, and I think
Next
other
question.
experts would agree.
Next question. You realize that on that, or have you read that entire pamphlet, that evaluation of glare? You read that pamphlet?
I have not real recently, but when it came out in 2015 or maybe 2016, I read it.
Okay. Do you recall that on the flight simulator data that you mentioned there earlier, that during the flight simulator evaluation, they had 2 simulated crashes due to glare? Is included in that report? Do you recall
Did
that?
not remember that. No, sir.
Okay,
I
that's
don't
listed
recall
on
that.
page 6 of that report. And then again, that was the simulated data where 2 crashes were reported. Again, on the simulator, there weren't any actual plane crashes, but they attributed that to the glare. So I just wanted to know if you were aware of that or remember reading that in your report. The other thing is I wanted you to reread the definition of yellow glare in your report.
We've already went through this at black.
Okay, what is-
I'm gonna sustain that, because that gets a little cumulative. We have read that into the record. If you have a question about it, that's fine, but I don't need you to repeat it.
Well, it attempts to minimize the glare, even though the definition is clear. I mean, you keep saying, the glare is so incidental, but I think it's very important to remember what that is, what the definition of that glare is in his report, that we don't lose track of that.
It very well may be, but that may be a better, your closing argument might be a better place to emphasize that.
Okay. All right, then my final question then, when we looked at table 1, was brought up earlier about the average minutes per day, especially on Monument Road. This is in Exhibit 52. We talked about Klaus Road, 10 minutes per day. We were looking at that chart for Klaus Road, which was page 22 of 63. Can we go to that? Because on Klaus Road there, it only lists on table 1, it lists 10 minutes per day. But if we go to that chart, daily duration, the top right chart there, daily duration of glare. I mean, that's showing, I mean, if you look at April, how many minutes of glare per day are you having in April and in the early part of September there? I mean, are we looking at 10 minutes per day of yellow glare? Or what's the actual number there, according to that chart?
It looks like probably at least more than 20 minutes, maybe 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay. So on certain days, there's a lot more than 10 minutes of glare, and being the reason that this is an average of days per year, and there's certainly, it's like 5-6 months a year where there is absolutely no glare, but then the days there are glare, there's going to be a lot more than 10 minutes a day. We look at Monument Road, that same chart on page 36 of 63. That was the new one that you added.
So 63 or 66?
36 of 63. 36 of 63.
I'm not seeing it. Do you know which of the
It's in the
appendices
first
that is?
part. You're in the second chart already.
Maybe 38 of 66?
36 of 63.
Right. Is this the one you're looking for? That I'm showing down? A rate? It doesn't look like any of the appendices don't seem to have 63 pages, so I'm not sure which, or maybe I'm missing.
Well, it's PV Array 2 at Monument Road, and Route Monument Road.
well, I'll get it one, that occurs, there's different appendices, because there's 4 different versions. You know, with different array heights and different vegetation heights, but I think you might be referring to this page 38. Here, this is one version of maybe array 2 in Monument Road.
Okay, all right, yeah, stop there. And highlight that daily duration of glare on the top right chart there. Okay, so period between, say, mid-March and mid-September.
I would inject in the same basis as before. I mean, we want, again, this is rehashing the same testimony from the last hearing at length. It seems to be going down the same line of questioning that we just went down with the last page that we looked at.
So the purpose of recross is to cross on what was talked about on the redirect. So I think the objection is going to be sustained because I think we're a little bit beyond the scope. You know, you made the point in your prior cross. You don't have to remake it now.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Mrs. Balthazar.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Hey Russ, before she starts, Appendix A is the 63 pages. That's why he may not be able to find it.
Okay.
So it's Tommy, it's the first appendix.
Thank you. I thought I'd checked that one. I guess I was already too far down.
We go to table one.
Yeah, it was higher than I thought.
Tommy, did you hear Mrs. Balthazar?
Yeah, exhibit 52, table one, please. I can.
Hold it closer.
I know you can be louder, Mrs. Balthazar.
Is the mic on?
Tommy, can you hear Mrs. Balthazar?
I can. The volume's a lot. The audio quality is better than some other speakers.
It's better or it's worse?
You want to use this?
It's better. It's not as loud, but it sounds better.
Just yell into it.
Can you go to figure 1? Is that what you want?
Yes. No, table one.
Oh, sorry. I thought table 1. Okay, I'm at table 1.
Yep, table 1.
Are y'all seeing that now? I'm at table 1.
No. There you go. I just want to clarify. So, like on Wild Road, there was 2 data points, correct? There was, well, I wrote down number 4 and number 14 were your data points. So is this information that's presented on here based on those 2 data points for Wild Road? Let's just look at Wild Road.
Yeah. I can see the room for confusion. This is based on a car actually on Wild Road. And this has nothing to do with those 2 observation points that are along the side of Wild Road.
So this data is not taken by those data points?
No, it's not. It's taken itself. Down here shows the results of those data points. You're referring to these, what the software calls OP4 and OP14.
Right.
Those results are in table 3 and table 4, table 1. Yeah, table 3 and table 4 have the results for those points.
So how do you get them the results for that table 1?
For the road itself.
Yes, for the road itself?
So this shows, I'll show you what these reports. I can find the right part of the report. So the software is designed to check for glare along a road. Yep, so here's Blau Road. So in the software, I zoom in on the map and put a bunch of points along this road. And in some cases, it may actually span road sections that are called a couple different names, but the software limits how many roads you can have and how many points on that road. So I had to be efficient to try to capture all the road I wanted to, and then I had to give it a single name. So here's what I modeled as Blau Road. So the software is actually checking for a car driving kind of north and south of this road. It was also checking for a south and north all along that road. And those are the road results, or for a car actually on the road.
Okay. All right, yeah, then I just misunderstood. I thought table 1 was based on the data points. No, go ahead. You don't want to answer? All right, I'm done.
Thank you. Mrs. Fowler, Ms. Fowler, excuse me.
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Fowler.
Ask it.
Okay.
Ask it.
Do you have a question, Jerry?
Follow up on what was just said.
Okay.
Can I have figure 12 brought up on the screen, please?
Yes, look at that. Okay, here's figure 12. And I apologize, I missed who was speaking now. I couldn't hear what was said.
Jerry Davis, I'm looking for figure 12 on the screen.
Okay, I think I've got figure 12 on my side.
Okay. For the benefit of everybody in the room, is it fair to say, from our viewpoint looking at the screen and from your viewpoint looking at your screen, on the right-hand side of the screen, near observation point number 9, that would be considered true east, right? Almost true east on that side and west on that side?
Correct. Yeah, this should be oriented so that true north is straight up,
Okay.
true south.
So my
Yes.
concern is, let's go through this depiction here. If you go across the top of the top left, observation point number 10, 4, 2, 1, 13, 12, 11, and 9 are all facing north of the panels, opposite of the direction they're facing the sun, correct?
I think that's correct. I don't remember exactly how far north. This might be more useful to look at this fifth one. Looks like observation point 2, 1, and 13 are, and then 12 just barely, or only those 4 are north of the panels.
Right.
But yes, I do agree that, yeah, that's a good point. Those 4 are north of the panels. They would not be expected to see any glare. Could not see any glare.
Right. Observation point number 8 is down over.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button.
Observation point number 8 is down over the hill, which has no visual view of any solar panels at all at that residence. That's the same with observation point number 7. Are you familiar with topography there? Do you have any lines on, you don't have a map of the elevation lines?
I apologize, I'm getting to sneeze again. I don't have one readily available. I don't know if I have one at all.
Okay, so that's fine. So I guess you'll have to take my word for it or go out and do a site visit to see what I'm saying is true.
This software does have elevation data in it, so it's using the elevation data. And I did use Google Earth to understand some of the elevation changes. It'll show the elevation, but it doesn't have the topographical lines shown.
So what I'm
But
getting,
I can believe you, I'm familiar with the area.
okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when we look at this map for any effective use, observation point 14 is also somewhat to the north of any solar panels. The ones that are actually true depictions of what you're putting in your study is observation point number 3 and number 6 and number 5. Because those are going to be the ones south of the solar panels.
Observation 14, point 14 is, I would expect that we see glare coming across all this array.
You do expect to
Section
see
here to the west of it, to the north.
Okay, so my point is, there's a lot of residents near observation point 6 up there in that hill. And they will have panels facing them from the Frederick property and the Gasperi property. And as you go down Crick Lane, those homes down along there also have that. And those are averages you put in there, you did averages based on all those negative, non-influenced numbers across the top of those observation points, is that correct? North of the panels.
No, there was no averages based on those. I'm not sure what averages you're referring to.
Well, how could you have the same numbers for observation point number 3 as you do with observation point number 2? How could they even be close?
Let me go to the table you're referring to.
I'm looking at the map that you have on the
Where-
screen.
You said the same numbers for those two? You mean like glare results? Sorry, it's hard to scroll around here. Zoom in. Sorry, maybe I thought I understood what you meant. Maybe I don't understand your question.
So observation point 2.
Observation points.
2, I'm questioning if those folks in that residence there can even see the solar panels. If they do, they're going to see the back side of them.
Yeah, that's correct. I would expect they could not see the glass side of any panels.
So why would
At observation point 2.
So why would you include that in the study then?
Again, I included all the panels, all the same points that were selected in the original Kimley Board report. I mean, if somebody's at observation point 2, they may feel better about having that house included and getting to see what the software says versus the argument that they can't see the glass side of the panels.
All right,
But I don't think that 3, I just used the same points that the previous study used.
Understood. I think I made my point. The last point I want to make here is and pardon the court reporter here, but if I was to stand here in front of the screen, and we're standing in an auditorium here, and Craig, you stand right here in front of me, please. Craig is going to stand approximately 12 feet from me. Craig's 5.5 feet tall. I'm going to project that this room has a slope of 10%. Most of the property out there is in the 20% range slope. I can't see the two people, the first 2 rows of people behind Craig. So Craig is an example of a 6-foot tree. I can see all the people in the chairs behind Craig's head. So thank you, Craig. How is that your glare study represented this buffer of 6-foot trees. If I'm sitting on my front porch and Craig's a 6-foot tree in front of me, when the hill slopes uphill from that, I can see right over Craig's head. Craig David tree.
It takes that into, yeah, I think I understand. It takes that into account. It has, the model has that full topographical information for this entire area. So it knows the height of the ground at all these locations.
Yeah, but that's not enough
That's what it
locations.
shows.
There are very few locations on the south side. Most of them you have on the north side of the,
I understand that
proposed.
this is a unique situation, but I mean, it seems like we are rehashing now 2 hearings worth of testimony to what he's already testified in the report, so, I mean, I think he's answered all of your questions over the last 2 hearings.
and Mr. Gillen, that's fine. I'm just trying to get a perspective on what the numbers show in reality, the factual representation of it, a visual representation of it versus a bunch of numbers on the chart. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other members of the board have questions? Does this give rise to any redirect, or redirect, I should say?
I guess, just to clarify, I know that you've answered this, it seems like 3 different times, 3 different ways, but you also modeled all the roads, which fills in gaps between the observation points.
Yes, that's correct. All these roads in figure 1, all these aqua colored roads have all been analyzed for is glare visible for car along the roads. See that spreads out all around the array. Yes, and any buildings in the area are in general right adjacent to one of those roads.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Mr. Clark, any recross?
Tommy, and to clarify, Exhibit 37 did not do that analysis for the 3 rows that you added to your report?
That's correct. I had 3 roads that were not included in that analysis.
Thank you.
Exhibit 37.
Nothing further. Mrs. Palinuk? Mr. Bergman? No questions. Mr. Hoffner? No questions. Mr. and Mrs. Young? No questions. Mr. Balthaser?
Yes, just one question. In the report, it states that using an observation point and the road use 2 different criteria for the angle of the glare. On the road report, you're looking at a 50-degree angle, and on the observation report, you're looking at a 360-degree angle. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct about that.
All right, so it's not apples and apples when you're looking at an observation point and a road report, because you're really looking out the windshield of a car at 50 degrees on the road report, and the other report you're looking at all around. So depending on how you're positioned with your car will determine whether you're going to see that glare or not. So it's possible that on the
You are
road,
correct.
go ahead.
Sorry, and you're correct that these are all modeled for 2-way traffic. So it's modeling straight ahead plus 50 degrees to the left, 50 degrees to the right, and doing that in both directions. So you're correct, it's not quite an apples to apples comparison versus
Right,
an
so,
observation point that's looking at 360 degree.
okay. So it's possible that someone in a car in front of a driveway on the road report would have a different experience than someone standing in the driveway next to the car. One could have yellow glare and one could have no glare according to your analysis. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Mrs. Balthaser? Ms. Fowler?
No questions.
Mr. Feller?
No questions.
Okay, we are going to take a 10-minute
Hold on, I mean, can I ask follow-up based on that question?
How many times are we gonna go around this?
I just.
Because if you do that, I gotta go around again.
We're here, it's our
All
record. So just to clarify though, you're confident with the observation points that they were sufficient to accurately model the projected glare from this solar project?
Yes, I just had to say previously, a very reasonable representation of the buildings in the area.
Okay, I have no further questions.
No, recross.
Nope.
Okay.
One, I have, I know that we have limited time, but Mr. Hughes, this is the only day he's not available, June 5th, as I mentioned to you on an email, so.
Well, I still have to ask the other parties if they have any follow-up questions. And then we're going to take a 10-minute recess when I'm going to address scheduling with council and parties. Mrs. Polonic.
Nothing.
Okay. Mr. Hartman, no questions. Mr. Hoffner, no questions. Mr. Young, no questions. Mr. Balthaser, no questions. Mrs. Balthaser. Ms. Fowler.
No.
Mr. Fowler.
No.
I'm going to excuse Mr. Cleveland from his testimony with the thanks of the board for staying with us again this evening. And we are going to take a 10-minute recess. Parties of record and council, if you could approach so that we can talk about scheduling beyond June 5th.